This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
I will. I'm excited to do that, but first I have to host this one. This is Things I Found Online with me, your host, Louise Palanker, and my co-host, Lori Rockenkamp. Today, with a panel of actors and my friend, talent agent Pam Ellis Evenas, we will answer the question that most haunts Hollywood actors: how do I get my next job? Additionally, how is the internet affecting actors and casting? With us, we have actor Lee Paul, whose rich on-screen history includes The Sting, Hawaii Five-0, Mission Impossible, Happy Days, Mannix, Chips, Falcon Crest, Matlock, and on and on and on. Lee, how old were you when you first got into acting?
I have to remember.
Yeah.
Let's see, it was 65, so I was probably 22, 23.
So let's click on Lee's very impressive IMDb history. So this is kind of like the tail end of the studio system when you come into it?
Well, it was still going pretty well.
Yeah.
The studio still had, like 20th Century Fox, still had a talent development program, and they had a coterie of people that they used in some of the shows, but it was near the end. It was certainly the studio system and people being brought up from the beginning and trusted all the way through was pretty much gone. Yes.
And were you told your whole life, Lee, you have beautiful blue eyes, you should go to Hollywood and become an actor?
Well, my eyes have gotten a little muddied through the years.
Oh no, they're I'm right here. They're blue.
I'm drowning in them.
Yeah.
But I told the story. In fact, I was at a place today, and the lady came up to me and said, "Oh, you've got pretty blue eyes." And I said, "Thank you very much." And I said, I'm blue-eyed, and I said, I remember doing The Sting, which is one of the highlights of my career because it's such a famous show, and Academy Award winner, 7 Academy Awards and all that. And I said, well, I'll tell you a quick story, and the story was that I had blue eyes and Paul Newman had blue eyes. And I said to somebody, well, why is he getting 100,000 times more money than I am?
He makes salad dressing.
Yeah.
Right. And they said, well, he's Paul Newman, and you're nobody. But the point is that I played Robert Shaw's bodyguard, 2 meatheads, but Charlie Dierkopf, who went on to an interesting career, a little short guy with a bad nose, and the big tall gink, which was me.
Oh, that's cool.
That is very cool. Also with us, we have Eric James Morris is a young actor joining us from Atlanta via Zoom. Are you there, Eric?
Yeah, I can hear you guys fine. Can you hear me?
Eric James Morris is a young actor joining us from Atlanta via Zoom video conference. Eric, your IMDb page tells us that you are known for Repeat 2019, MacGyver 2016, and Edge of Town. Tell us about your career and finding work in Atlanta.
Well, I've been at this not very long, maybe 3.5 years, and I'm just always pursuing work like every other actor, always trying to find the next job. My agent does some great work getting me some leads and a lot of auditions, but yeah, I just constantly pursue. I'm looking online on Actors Access, sometimes different Facebook groups for non-union stuff that I'll look at, and it's the connections that I make along the way. A lot of times people will just ask me directly if I can play a serial killer or something like that. So I play a lot of those kind of characters.
Yeah, you have that kind of steely, intense thing going for you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you and they both have steel blue eyes.
I got to dig into my inner self to be that guy. I'm actually a funny. I like doing comedy, oddly enough. But it's not my character.
Yeah, it's not your personality.
Oh, so you get typecast more as like a serious character?
Oh yes, I play any kind of killer, any kind of Southern bad guy. That's me all day long. So military, of course, and your detective 1s and 2s and things like that. But my go-to character is usually a psychotic, affluent type.
Isn't that kind of fun to play? Like, I feel like in sketches I usually play like the crazy person or the so I feel like that kind of lends itself to like comedic timing a little bit.
It does. Sometimes I had a cool pilot that we did for Sony and Sony PlayStation Network when they were shooting stuff. and it was I played a crazy golf cart salesman. It's called Two Roads, and it's a little over the top. And I'm selling this golf cart like I'm selling this man a Cadillac or something. And I'm really super passionate about it. And you can't tell what I'm talking about to the end of the scene. And we back off and we're looking at this golf cart. So it was kind of like that, a little bit crazy, over the top. I had a lot of fun with that kind of character, and I wish I could do more of them.
All right, let's take a look at Eric's page on castlisting.com.
All right.
This is a place where people can post a profile.
Now, did you decide when you were in Atlanta that you wanted to do acting, or was it something where you wanted to do acting, but then you moved to Atlanta and you're like, well, I'm still going to try and pursue it in Atlanta, or was there just...
Well, I'm one of the few actors in Atlanta that's actually, I'm born and raised in this city. And I was
nice.
a musician. Yeah. There's so many people from all over that have moved here because there's so much being filmed here in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a musician for years. I played guitar and sing, and used to play out at bars and anywhere they let me play, really. And I've always had a love for performing in general. And I just started pursuing my dreams. I had a rare opportunity about 3.5 years ago. I met a small director, and I wanted to be in an extra in his film, and it just I've never looked back. So
That's awesome.
Well, please also welcome Devin Sirocco. Devin is a young actor from Orange County who is thinking of making the move to Los Angeles. Is that correct, Devin?
Yeah, actually, I think as of a couple of days ago, my girlfriend and I got a place, and we're going to be moving to Long Beach. So technically that's L.A. County, right? It's closer than Orange County.
Yes. It's a different county for sure.
Slowly but surely making my way up.
Making your way.
Devin, does it still sting, the fact that I beat you in Orange County's Funniest Person?
Yeah, I
went there.
don't
She
recall
went
that.
there.
Oh, okay.
I don't recall that at all.
Does that still hurt?
Kind of block
or
those
maybe
memories
the
out.
laugh down that I beat you in as well? Does that still sting? I'm not going to talk about the laugh downs you beat me in. I'm just going to talk about the things that I beat you.
I think I only ever won like one of those things because it was.
Yeah.
I think it was a little off-putting to see a 15-year-old person up there like trying to tell jokes with like all these people who actually had like a lot more like developed material. But I won sometimes.
Lori and Devin are both stand-up comedians, which kind of adds some weaponry to your arsenal of what you bring to the table. May even make auditioning easier, make you less intimidated, sort of in the process of where everyone is staring at you. Just maybe a good tool to have. Let's take a look at Devin's IMDb page.
It's pretty extensive. I don't know if we can fit the whole thing up there.
Here's where Pam has some notes for you, because you have what I call silhouette head.
Yeah,
and
that's
silhouette
true.
head, not a good look.
Yeah.
So Pam Ellis Evenas, I'm not sure if you go professionally, but with your
Ellis is fine
with all those names, but at least they both begin with an E, which is nice. So Pam is a talent agent who founded the Ellis Talent Group. She is here with us to talk about how her workflow has shifted over the years. She's also here to advise and inform our actors, and she will also answer questions about how the industry operates at her end of things. So we can click on the link for the Ellis Talent Group, and then by way of full disclosure, Pam and I were young page girls together. And if you do a deep internet dive, you will find some photographic evidence of our adventures.
I thought I burned all of those.
No. They are.
Damn.
You can burn them at your home if you choose, but they are on the
They
internet.
live on the internet.
So there's me as a young page.
Help me.
These are stylish polyester.
Oh, dear God.
I always tried to
uniforms.
dress those up, and then I got, in a lot of trouble.
Oh, I remember when you'd scarf it or cinch it or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had name tags. And they say, like in life, you should really only have one job where a name tag is required, and then you should be moving on from there. So we were on all of the Norman Lear sitcoms. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this last night, Pam, like, I don't just have like a few memories of this. I have a million memories.
Some of the best times
of that year we spent as a page. It was so indelible. Every day was just indelible.
It was a
Because
blast.
You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm with Donald O'Connor.
Yeah.
Like, you just keep pinching yourself, like
John Ritter.
John
was
Ritter.
One of my
Jeez.
favorite people on the planet.
What was he
So
like?
awesome.
She guarded his dressing
Oh
room.
my
Really?
God.
Yeah,
I
and
loved
we-
him. I loved all of them. I really
Yes,
did.
except for that. Remember how I used to spend my lunches with you?
Yeah.
And we used to hang out at lunchtime, and she was guarding his dressing room, so I would just sit on the floor next to her.
On my little chair.
And
I
John
a
had
chair
his
next to
little
John.
baby, which is probably now Jason Ritter.
Yeah.
And at some point, Pam said, I don't know how to say this to you, but John doesn't want you hanging here. He's probably inside his dressing room hearing like two girls just, chitter chattering.
But I was nice about it, right?
You of course. How could you not be? You're a nice person.
Oh, because he was trying to put his baby down or something, and you just
maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe,
no,
I
he was
think
he was very
didn't like
private.
me.
They were all very private, and at the time, they had already gone through the break.
Oh, the whole Chrissy thing. And,
Yeah, and there was some security issues, and it was a very long hallway with a lot of really famous people on it, and
Jeez.
they only wanted the people around that they wanted around, and they were very strict about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
I tried,
that's-
Louise. I really did.
No, I was kicked out of a lot of different places. Don't worry.
It wouldn't have been
Don't
the
worry.
last.
But there's Pam, and so
Oh my God.
I can.
Oh,
I
man,
have-
that's
that's
cute.
I
me.
can name Yasmin, and I
Yasmin?
told you I can't really name anybody else besides you. I don't remember the name of the guy with the glasses.
I thought that was Michael, but that's not Michael.
The sunglasses or the?
So wasn't
That's not
Michael
Michael.
Johnson was
Michael Johnson was African
was
American.
one of my favorite
And I
pages.
loved him. He was a great guy.
a doll.
Yeah.
And so
I didn't know the other two.
So Pam, here we are. We're starting our careers together at this place called Metro Tape. It was Channel 11, Metro Media, all the Norman Lear sitcoms, all these iconic places. We were on Different Strokes, Facts of Life, The Jeffersons, One Day at a Time. It's where I picked up the nickname Wheezy, because you can't be named Louise and not have people call you Wheezy when you work on The Jeffersons. Those are the rules. So I went on and wrote for Rick Dees, and then you went on and someone said, you know what, you should, because we were all trying to figure out, like, what would be a good career for me.
Well, somebody literally in the dressing room when we were changing into those horrifying brown polyester uniforms, somebody said, you should be an agent. You have the gift for gab. And I had no idea what an agent was. And I kind of sought out finding out what that meant. But in the meantime, I was working in Metro Media and television script development. I had gotten a job working for a crazy person who will be unnamed.
I worked for a crazy person, too.
Yeah,
I worked for
and,
2 in a row, back-to-back crazy people.
Yeah.
I'll name them if you need me to.
I currently
no,
do a
no,
podcast with a crazy person.
They're no longer in the business, but it got down to that. How are you passing on this? That kind of thing. Great scripts and amazing writers, and I met some of the most brilliant writers and had the best time there. And she just would pass on everything and didn't understand comedy, and I got incredibly frustrated and had huge fights and just you can't quit, you're fired, kind of came out of her mouth one day. And I said, okay. And then I found myself without a job and literally took up that, well, I have the gift for gab. I'm going to go take a look and see what this agency thing is. And that was it. Answered an ad in the paper and became an agent. And that was, I didn't become an agent overnight. I was an assistant for many years, going from, desk to desk, wound up working for a VP of a television department and kind of getting my bones. And over the years,
That's so cool. And that also,
an agent.
is really cool. Not cool that you had that crazy person, but it's also interesting that, that was almost in a way, sort of like a setup for you inevitably finding your career.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I always I don't necessarily believe if I believe in a higher power, but I always think it's really cool how, the path that you end up going down, everything leading up to it, you can sort of see how it fits together.
And that
I
whole
think-
concept of one door closes, another door opens.
Yeah.
I thought that was the end of my career in Hollywood, and it wound up being just the very beginning. It was really
But
wonderful.
I think that if you're all in and your intentions are good and you're getting up every day and you're being productive and you're working towards something, there's this sorting that the universe does.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen if you're laying on your couch.
Right.
But if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
out there
That's right.
moving, there's this sorting that you have to respect. And so something that can feel like a monumental failure is actually just the universe sorting itself and closing a pathway and you saying, okay, it looks like I need to walk down here. And then seeing where that leads you. And I know, Lee, you must have had many of those types of experience because you know Mannix.
Well, I'll tell you, in order to have a career, you have to be willing to work. You have to take pride in what you do. You have to feel that no matter how small your part is, there are no small parts, there's only small actors, so you kind of do the best you can. Through 30-odd years and 100 television shows, the stories just flood the mind. But the essence is that I believe that the creative spirit is what's important. I believe that basketball players should earn what teachers earn, and teachers should earn what basketball players earn. because that's more important than
Applause
anything.
break.
Yes.
And I just saw something on
basketball
television
player,
last
so I
night
just-
where
Yeah.
a choreographer says the arts are just important as business and war and bombs. So the point is, it really is important that people beginning in the business, excuse me, have a sense about themselves, but also realize that their artistic survival is more than just their staying alive. It contributes to the whole atmosphere of creativity that we, hopefully in this business, still can stay in touch with.
Right. It's not just that you have a voice and you want to be heard. It's also that someone needs to hear what
Yeah.
you have to say. And if you remember it that way, it doesn't feel so selfish. Like, look at me on Instagram. And it's always kind of like this look at me instinct that we all have, which is a natural human instinct. But it's also, if you're saying something that matters, then there are people who need to hear it.
Yeah, I agree. Some of my favorite things, like radio shows, podcasts, anything that I find that had really influenced me, is a very niche. Like, it's sort of like not a lot of people follow it. So I've always been like, if I can just have like a small amount of people, but it changed their lives the way that something changed my life, then I'd be happy.
It's called a cult following, Lori.
Yeah. I'm starting a cult, guys.
All right. So let's talk about, our show is about the internet, and so we're going to talk about how the internet has changed the way everyone does business, starting with Pam, because when you started out, the gift of gab was essential.
Yeah.
And now it's like you were telling me, like, people barely pick up the phone anymore.
Yeah, the industry's changed a lot.
Jeez.
Yeah, the casting and agency relationship has definitely changed with the technology age. Literally, I mean, the way things started when I first got into the business, we got something called a breakdown. I'm sure everybody knows what that is.
No, but for those of you
who are
listening
actors.
at home, what is a breakdown?
It's just like it sounds. It's a breakdown of a script, and they break it down for the casting people to be able to cast each specific role.
So it's broken down in terms of like who's in this thing,
Right,
And
exactly.
do you have an actor
This
on your
is-
roster who could play one of these?
Exactly. And then what we would do is we would have to make a submission that used to be done physically, a hard copy, 8x10 glossy with a resume stapled to the back of it, and it would have to be delivered. And so everybody in town basically got their breakdowns at the same time. All the agents and all the managers in town would get their breakdowns. I would have mine delivered to my house. I'd hear thunk on my doorstep at 6 o'clock every morning. And I would, sit
It
with
wasn't
my
someone
coffee.
passing out.
No, not all the time. And then I would do my breakdowns, and I would hand them off to my assistant when I would walk in the door. And that's what my bosses did with me when I was an associate. They would hand me their breakdowns. They had all their notes on it, and then I would pull pictures and resumes, and we would put type on an old typewriter and make a submission, and then stuff them in an envelope. And our messenger would come by 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, in the day. And by around 3 o'clock, our bosses were all phoning. And then as I got older and became an agent, I was phoning in, trying to get the attention of a casting director. Please take a look at my package. Please make sure that you open it. Please make sure that it's on top. I would say to the assistants and try and bribe them with donuts and and get my packages opened. And then hopefully they would call us, and we would get appointments for the clients. And everything was generated over the course of maybe 12 to 24 hours. Now, breakdowns are done electronically through something. It's still called the breakdown, but it's delivered to us moment by moment. It's all day long. We're getting refreshes of breakdowns delivered into our inboxes all day long, and it's all done electronically. And so you've got to stay on it. If I was inclined, I would be able to look at it right now, and I'd be able to say, "Oh God, I've got a lot to do."
Let's pull it up and see, because maybe
What a breakdown looks like.
Yeah, let's see what.
I don't know if I could actually get it without giving you passwords and all that kind of stuff and going through the technical part. We should have prepped
Well,
that.
if you pull it up on your phone, you could say, okay, this is what they need. They need a tall man with steely blue eyes.
Yeah.
And then Lee Paul.
I got it.
He just jets.
but
He's
it's
expensive.
literally done on a little app on my phone. And
Wow.
I'll show it to you in a sec. There we go.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And it is done moment by moment. Everybody on the agency and the management side are going to have to get their breakdowns done immediately.
Is that list just all breakdowns right there?
This is every breakdown that's come in.
So
You can
who's,
see
who's
just in-
casting?
who are the casting people?
No, what parts are out there?
For
What's the
example?
story, Morning Glory?
Well, because right now we're on hiatus. Most television is not in production, but It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is back in production. So they're in their 14th year. It looks like.
Yeah.
My God, it's episode
Still
number
sunny.
1402.
My uncle works on that
1401.
show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like a locations manager for that show.
Oh, nice.
That show's a blast.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's
I love
such
it.
a good show.
So there's a couple of guest stars.
So read how just the language that they would use to describe the part to you.
Well, they give you a list of who all the executive producers are,
Oh, okay.
everybody, what the studio is in case it's the first time you're throwing eyeballs on a breakdown. And it gives you the description of where it's going to be shooting, what day, what the dates are of the production so that you're not submitting people who are not available or not willing.
What I want to know is, do they tell you the name of the character, and then how do they describe the character?
Lisa, 35. This woman stays at Mac and Dennis's place with her husband.
This is perfect for you, Lori. Go ahead.
Me and
no
Devin,
idea.
husband and wife.
They plan to romance her and grows increasingly disturbed as they invade her private life and personal business. And then it's a guest star. And now the casting director is angry at me for divulging that to the world.
So we in trouble? But it must be fun fitting the pieces together and thinking this is a puzzle. We can totally work this.
And in the old days where I would now scramble to be able to put the one or two actors who we have in that category into an envelope and call my messenger and say, get it over there right away. We want to make sure we get our packages in right away. I click, and then I open up my clients. And I do an electronic submission.
So that's how they get it. So then they get it, and then how do they submit? Do they submit like a recorded thing, and then they send it electronically as well? Or
they can. I mean, attached to the variety of headshots that we have a choice of submitting electronically is also the resume. It's it's a link to their video clips. It's any number of things that you want to submit along the way, and you have a choice. They could have multiple clips. Some are appropriate, some might not be. So we don't want to submit the one where the woman's dressed as a clown because they don't want a clown.
Yeah.
We want to have something that's more appropriate, a woman who's dressed properly, who is maybe a similar character that they played previously. And so we'll submit whatever's appropriate in terms of the headshot and their video and their clips and all that kind of stuff. And then hope that the casting director opens up our submission and goes, wow, you're right. She is awesome. Let's bring her in. And then from there is probably going to be an audition.
So they still bring people in. They need
Yeah.
to see people in person.
That changes things a little bit from the actor's point of view.
It's that fast now. It's
Let
crazy.
me just share this.
Yeah.
30 years ago, when I was up for a role, a courier would come with the script, deliver it. You'd look at it, and you'd go through the process with your agent. Just recently, I had to do everything online. Mm-hmm. The first thing I had to do was pay $1 per page for the script.
Really?
Yeah, through this casting site. If you wanted to see your lines, you had to pay $1 per page. Then you had to do a self-video. You had to video yourself.
Yeah.
And then you submitted that electronically.
Wait, are you sure that's not a dating site?
Did you swipe right?
It's so
is it left?
different.
It's so different.
Well,
I don't remember
the
anymore.
agent hardly seems to be even in the mix anymore.
I'd like to know what
anybody
service
can
asked
be
you to
an
pay for
agent
that,
today
though.
as long as they've got
what
a
service
laptop.
was that?
I know. Well, I know Showfax through Actors Access. If you don't have an Actors Access Pro, like if you didn't pay for the yearly subscription, like
Right.
I paid for the yearly subscription, so if I need to look at
Humble
some
brag.
sides, it was like $45.
Yeah, but you pay and you pay.
But if you pay, I know with Actors Access, if you pay for the yearly subscription, you get unlimited access to Showfax.
But wait a
like-
second.
That's good.
But if if you don't have a yearly subscription, then
But
they'll charge
but
you for the.
are you doing this on your own without an agent or a
I
manager?
am. I'm doing it without an agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
When
but
I
you're saying-
had-
There's different
we-
levels of things
Yeah.
where it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of non-union stuff that's going on because
Oh,
anyone can make a
80%,
movie and put it
80% 's
online.
non-union.
Yeah.
So you're doing all union stuff.
Yeah, where
and
I'm required to. I can't
and
do
You're an
non-union.
agent and
Right.
legit and all that, but there's like all these layers of stuff where people are aspiring to get to your layer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
this is why it's good that they can ask you questions because I think they would aspire to where I would love to have an agent clicking boxes and then calling me and saying you've been submitted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's
bothers
cool.
me that you guys are paying for those services.
Well, no. When I had an agent briefly, she didn't. I didn't have to pay for any of that. They did
Right.
all that. But then when
Yeah.
the agency unfortunately closed down, and then I had to start doing it on my own.
Right.
And then I had to pay for it. But then it's also like what like if you're just an actor out there, like, and you're trying to get in and you don't have an agent, like you see different breakdowns than what they get to see.
Right.
Like I would never see, like on LA Casting or anything, I wouldn't see like a Sunny in Philadelphia thing.
No, it's the choice of the agents or it's the choice of the casting directors or the producers where
Right.
they actually put their information up. There's several different services these days. It's not just breakdowns anymore.
Yeah.
There's something called casting networks that also, like 20th Century Fox uses.
So
Yeah.
what do you advise? Because this has always been the case. There's people out there trying to take advantage of actors who are hungry, and they can argue, oh, well, you'd be in this film, and we're going to put it online, and it's going to go to the festival route, and you're going to be seen, and it'll be great for your reel. There's always arguments they can make. So, but hungry actors don't have a ton of money. So, like, what do you recommend that they do spend money on, and what do you recommend that they don't spend money on?
Well, IMDb Pro I think is really important because when a casting director or a producer or an agent or a manager who you're looking to work with want more information about you, the first place that they go is there, or at least in my experience, that's what happens. When I get a casting director on the telephone and we're talking and I'm pitching a client and they're saying, hold on one second, and I hear them tapping away on the computer, they're going to IMDb Pro and they're looking up that actor there. Or they're going to Breakdown Service or seeing what our submission
I think
looks
they're
like
playing
or what have you.
Bejeweled. Okay, but you go ahead and
Tune Blast.
Going on YouTube.
So you're
So I
saying
think that's like a basic investment because look, in contrast, let's remember the good old days when we had to submit headshots and resumes. 8x10 glossies are expensive, or were back
And
in the
now
day.
they want them in color, of course.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Still
but
need 'em
now
for
you don't
theater
even
auditions, though.
we never even ask our clients for headshots anymore because everything's done electronically. We either email it or we put it through some sort of a submission process, and it's rare, except when the clients are testing for something and they need to have 24 of them given to every network suit who's standing in a room waiting to make
Right.
a decision, and they all want to have a hard copy, which is totally fine with me. Just go ahead and ask. It means you're testing clients. We rarely have to use headshots anymore. So the investment that the actor used to make all those years ago in hard copies and stapled resumes and fancy schmancy paper and all that kind of stuff is now going. The investment is to IMDb Pro.
So
or
what does
to,
Devin have to do to not be a silhouette head on IMDb? How much is that going to run him?
I think IMDb Pro is like $10
Is
a month or
no,
something.
I think it's more. It might be like 15, but it's really minor.
yeah.
I mean, in terms of an
And
investment.
I think they have like a deal where you could pay for the whole year up front.
Right,
like,
and
you'll
you
save
get a
money that
discount
way.
to like $12.99 or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So generally, I mean,
Well,
and
they
everybody
have
in town does
more
that.
these casting sites also. They charge you per year for so many headshots,
Yes.
and then if you want to add a reel,
Yeah.
or if you want to have a voice slate,
They do nickel and dime you to death.
boy, it used to be,
Yeah.
once in a while I'd have to take an agent to lunch just to be sure that he knew that I was still alive and I knew that he was alive.
Yeah.
But boy, I'll tell you, you're right. It's now a lot of, as you say, nickel and dime and nickel and dime.
So how much
Just
of
to get
that
them.
is not like you need a reel on Vimeo? You need all of it linking to everything else, right?
I would recommend that you keep your Actors Access stuff up because that's primarily where, when you are represented, agents and managers will make the majority of their submissions is through breakdowns. And Actors Access is the actor side of breakdown.
And you can make a profile on that for free. You don't necessarily need to pay for that one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is nice just to because you can go in there and you can put your resume on
Right.
there and all that kind of stuff already, and you can do all that for free.
Yeah.
It's only like if you want to start submitting, that's like $2 a submission or something like that, unless you pay for the whole year.
Is that right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dollar a
Thank
page,
you for letting me know
$2 a
that.
submission.
Yeah, because and then putting up a video. I know that when you have a body of work, they will try and sell you two different options. One is you can have a reel that's linked for less than 5 minutes, and there's a certain price that you can spend for like a compilation reel. But then once they're hosting it, once you pay for the service and it's hosted, I think that's that one-time fee, right? I don't think
I
they
think so.
charge you
Yeah.
like monthly for that.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break. Hold that thought, Lee. You're going to
Okay.
be the first one talking when we return.
All right.
These are two commercials that I know you will enjoy.
Step 1. Dramatic introduction. I am Maggie's Elgar.
Magus Thadalor Elgar is one of the more respected casters in all of Hearth.
The dragon bone plate in my skull probably needs its focus enchantment aligned.
Though don't expect to go under his tutelage unscathed.
Well, you know what they say. Pretension can turn intention into the best retention.
Nobody says that.
No, not really.
You can hear Magus Elgar and his exciting adventures. Visit MagusElgar.com to download your copy today.
Hello, my name is Jacob.
And I'm his co-host, 5-year-old Olivia.
Do you have kids?
And are your kids curious?
If you answered yes, you should check out Curious Kid Podcast, a weekly educational podcast for curious kids and grown-ups. Every week we learn about another topic.
We've already learned about spiderwebs, batteries, the moon, and so much more.
You can find us at CuriousKidPodcast.buzzsprout.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I love that.
I don't even think I know anything
It
about
sounded
batteries.
like he was asking her if she has any kids, and Olivia's just like, I'm 5, so not that I know of.
Quite a few.
So actors, do you have any questions for Pam?
I have a
I got
million
one for you.
questions for Pam.
Oh, Aaron.
Oh, Eric's here.
Ooh, Aaron. From Beyond.
I want to ask you about what's your opinion on slate shots, Pam?
On breakdown, you mean? Like when somebody goes, "Hi, it's me, and here's my slate."
Now, Actors Access, you have what's called a slate shot for your headshots.
Yeah.
It's an extra fee that you pay. It's a talking headshot. It's pretty much what it is.
We have a couple of clients who've done that, and I think I actually don't care for it myself. I think it's up to the actor. I'm not going to discourage somebody from doing it, because if you just want to hear someone's voice, like I know all of my clients, I don't need to hear their voices. One of our clients speaks in Spanish because he's fluent in Spanish, and I think that that's helpful. He has a more ethnic-looking headshot, and attached to that headshot is him saying hello and introducing himself in Spanish, and I think that really helps him. But other than that, if you have your video already attached to it, you have a reel or some either demo reel of your 5-minute compilation, or you have individual clips, which they try and sell to clients. I'd rather have a compilation reel. A lot of clients don't need it, I think. I don't think that's necessary. Especially because it's costing more money. I mean, they're pinching you every second of the way,
Yeah, it seems like
you pay to upload your reel. It's like $20 a minute, I think is what it is. And
Yeah.
if you want to go back and pull your clips out, they charge you again for each clip. So
right.
Boy, oh boy.
It does add up. But the way I look at it for other actors, it's just you're in business for yourself.
It's an investment. Yeah, just an investment in yourself.
So it's a cost to do business, and it's just the way it's an investment.
I'll tell you one thing that I don't like. This is me personally. I don't know how other agents and managers and casting people feel. If you don't have professional material, I don't really care for watching auditions. A lot of clients, because there's so many self-tapes, so you're saying that they don't often ask you in the room. They ask you to do a self-tape, which is happening more and more. That's another problem with the industry. It seems like the newbies are a little lazy, the casting people. I'm sorry I said that out loud, people. I hope you're not offended by that. But, sometimes they'll request a self-tape, and I don't really want to see that attached as part of your body of work. That's just an attempt at getting a job.
Yeah, self-taping in Atlanta is super popular. I mean, that's predominantly how things get done in Atlanta. I don't know what it's like in Los Angeles, but rarely do you get called in for an actual in-person audition here.
Well, are you being asked to self-tape for jobs in Atlanta? They don't ask you in the room?
It's rare. Usually only in your callbacks will you actually get in the room with the director or the producer, or if it's commercials. There's a couple of big casting companies that do commercials here. Yeah. They always cast in person generally. But I'd say 95% of
a lot of
audition I've seen has been self-tape.
A lot of I know even student films, they'll ask you for a self-tape. I'm like, dude, you and I are starting on the same level. Come on. Seriously, let's come in there.
Roommates.
The upside.
Come on, bro. You know me.
You know what? There's two ways of looking at it, because there's an upside to doing a self-tape, because you can do it 25,000 times till you get the take that you like, right? But the upside of going in the room is that you get to go in the room. Right. That's your job, is to be able to shake someone's hand, look them in the eye, do an excellent job, hit your mark, turn your head, spit out your lines, and book a job.
We don't even talk to each other across the table now.
Right.
We text each other.
Right.
It's astounding how the electronics. Everyone here has a phone. Everyone had to go on Facebook prior to this setup. And
But
luckily, I was
pager,
helped
actually.
to do that.
It's the whole title of the show.
Right.
But I can understand why some casting directors will require that because they're moving at a breakneck pace right now. There is so much in production. It really is the golden age of mostly television. There's so many outlets.
There's so many outlets, yeah.
So Kathy Griffin used to say that she didn't necessarily feel like she was good in interviews or auditions, but she was good one-on-one. Like she can make people laugh. Do you think now, because of the way it's moving towards self-tapes and it's moving toward less and less like interpersonal, do you think somebody like her, or somebody who like maybe isn't the funniest on tape, but like you when you meet them you go, I know it doesn't look like it, but she has something? Do you think those people are kind of like thrown to the wayside now?
Yeah, because I think you're always better in the room.
Okay.
And if you're not better in the room, how are you going to be better on the set?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I looked at you on IMDb, Pam, and your talent agency is like that's kind of like the town square, right? IMDb. Mm-hmm. So it lists all your actors. You have like 136. Like, do you know them? Like, if one of them walks in, are you like, "Hi, Kathy," or are you like, "Wait, hold on, which one?"
No,
because that's a lot of people.
I know.
Like, that's almost bigger than my graduating
It's a lot of
class.
responsibility. I know.
Yeah, and they each have hopes and dreams and needs, and so
And they're all different. I know.
Yeah, so how do you?
It's a lot of juggling.
How do you do that? And also, like, what qualities are you looking for? Are you looking for people that don't kind of overlap, so that you have a little bit of everything?
We're a very, very small company. You know, we are what's called a boutique, and we've been around for a long time, and we have a reputation of not being able to speak clearly.
Hipster.
We have
I like
a reputation of handling good quality talent, you know, and having a good eye, and I'm really proud of that. But we also have to keep it small. Like,
So how do you know what to look for if you're known for your good eye? Like, what qualities are you looking for?
well, here's the beauty in this: everybody ages. So somebody who I've had a relationship
Lee.
with for 20 years is now 20 years older than when I signed them. So we're constantly looking to sort of replenish the coffers in sort of a way, you know, where start them young and groom them well, and hopefully there's some loyalty there and we grow together. You know, we have some of my clients have been with me for as long as I've been in business. Some of them, you know, longer than I know my husband, and you know, others are new to us, and I try and treat them all the same. You know, I try and love all of them.
So do they
trust
call,
me?
What's it like? Do people call every day, once a week,
No.
or do they not? Do they know like? Don't bother your agent.
Well,
like,
with
what's-
100 and something clients, if I was to take a call from each one of them every day, what would I be doing all day?
you'd be taking a call from all of them.
Yeah.
All day. So, but what are the norms? Like, does everyone kind of get into the flow of it and understand that my agent is working for me, therefore don't bother her. Let her do her work.
Well, I don't think they're ever bothered, but I think there's appropriate times, and they need to also trust my assistant that every single thing that they tell her, I hear. And so if they don't get to me, I will respond to them. If it's in an email, if it's over the phone, or however, they should get a response from me if I know that they've called. And we know what's happening. If you tell us something specifically, you know, if you call and just go, hey, would you ever call me back? I might go, Lauren, do me a favor, just find out what they need so that I can respond with some answers instead of just testing to see if I'll call. I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if this is like a generalized kind of concept, but actors could possibly, some of them be insecure. I don't want to make a
Are you talking about
sweeping
me?
What?
Are you
assessment.
talking about me right now?
Wait, please be talking about me.
What blows my mind is that 130 is considered a boutique. I'm still like, that's 130 people.
Yeah,
Like I was going to
there are
scroll through them, and
thousands.
I'm like, oh, I know
Yeah.
her, I know him, and then my finger got kind of like tired.
Yeah.
Like you do have a lot of people.
So I have a question for.
That's nothing.
I have a question for
small
essentially
company.
everybody here because I do improv, sketch, and stand up. I also do podcasts and stuff, but I haven't really put myself out there acting wise. And my girlfriend's been pushing me to do so. And so I think in June, when I have time, I'm going to start creating an Actors Access. But I just wonder, like, what would be like the big thing that I should do? Like, if the first thing I should do if I wanted to put myself out there, because I don't have an agent, I don't have anything, what would be like the big thing that I should do to put myself out there? To put a good step forward, I guess.
Have you ever acted before?
Yes.
And
I've acted in like YouTube miniseries and in movies and in indie films and stuff like that, but never anything. It's always been like Friends like Devin was saying, like it's like always been like people I know.
I have to tell you, for people who are new to acting, unless they have, look, there's so many different routes that you can go. I mean, there are lots of people who come out of Yale Drama School, who cannot audition for the life of them, you know. And it's like, and then there are other people like yourself who are sort of fearless and can just
I also have like
go for it.
15 years of improv in sketch.
But that can be very, and I don't want to offend you by this, can be very selfish. You have to learn how to share. You have to learn how to share. It's very, very
Are you
important.
saying I can't share? No.
No, but I'm saying that somebody who's a stand-up comic is used to being in front of a mic and talking to people for 10 minutes by
Improv is all
themselves.
about sharing.
Improv is,
No,
is sharing.
I get what you're
right.
saying.
But when you come down to it, for somebody who hasn't had a professional resume and hasn't gone the route of like the Yale Drama School kind of thing and doesn't have the connections and the deep kind of claws in the industry through all these connections or whatever, I would recommend like maybe doing some like thesis films.
Okay.
Just volunteering your time and getting a body of work and getting experience in front of a camera. Learn how to turn your head. Learn how to hit the mark. Learn how to spit out your lines. You need to start somewhere. And the theater, you're a theater guy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. That was gonna be
Theater?
my.
Yeah, I
my
did.
Makes you
suggestion.
fearless.
Too.
Yeah.
But still, you need to be able to have an electronic calling card because these days, you need to have something on Actors Access. You need to be able to submit to agents and managers when it's your time to go find representation. You have to have something that is sort of professionally done. So when you're talking about USC, UCLA, Chapman, where my daughter goes, they have incredibly talented filmmakers. And even in the undergrad programs are really, really great. The kids are incredibly sophisticated. They really know their
Effing.
Okay, so just to push
and you
it
could
forward.
get a great piece of
Even from
tape
appreciate
out of
it,
it.
from the community colleges, they still have like really like top of the line like looking equipment. Like I did some stuff at like OCC like forever ago, and
Mount San Antonio College, that's where we get all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Because they have like a really good.
And you wind up with a decent piece of tape that you can then start
before
submitting.
all the like the online stuff, then you want to make sure you have like a decent base of stuff.
Look, I'm still really old school. I don't care how many followers you have. I know that the networks do. I mean, we've lost jobs to, I use the terminology that sometimes offends people. I call them celebutards. They're not actors.
How dare you call them celebrities?
They're celebrity something.
well, and that's
You know?
but I did hear that the pendulum of that like it did get like super like okay, this kid's got 1 million followers. But I heard that now the industry's kind of like swinging back towards like, okay, actually people who can actually act.
Well, the problem is exactly what you said, is what she was pointing out, is that they've given so many people who have those followers chances, but then come to find out that they're not good. Like you give
It's
a different skill
You
set.
give a Vine star 30 minutes to do a comedy, they're not going to be able to pump out the same comedy that they've been doing
maybe
for
in
6
second increments.
Yeah.
Everything is so short these days.
Right.
Everything is compressed. I mean, I like Turner Classic Movies because you can hear the dialogue and you can get immersed. And now it's boom, 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 boom. My first demo was 2 hours long. Then it was an hour, then a half an hour. The current demo I have is 54 seconds. And they say that's all the people are going to listen to.
Right.
You wonder where the creativity can sneak in.
Okay, who wants to play Showbiz Story Roulette? Let's go to Lee's IMDb, and we're going to pick a show, and then he's going to tell us a story.
Okay.
You know, this is a guy who knows Matlock, okay? So just know before whom you stand. Do you have his IMDb? Okay, scroll down. Anybody who sees something that interests them, just shout it out, and then... So we have Matlock, Bustin' Loose, Outlaws, Falcon Crest.
Herbie the Love Bug.
Is he in that?
Oh.
Look
Yes,
at the
he is.
list, Lori.
He's there.
Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, did you just think I pulled that out?
I thought you were just random word association.
Lori, you've been trying to get Herbie the Love Bug in for 5 episodes now.
I've got a mad Dean Jones crush. I want some stories.
Well, I did do Herbie the Love Bug, the television show, not the film.
Ah, okay.
And
So you
was
don't
a
know
television
Lindsay
show?
Lohan?
no.
All right, well then next person.
The only one.
Okay. If I'm done,
I want to
I'm
hear
done.
about the ball.
The point is
My
that
favorite shows of all time.
big guys are bad guys, and I played another bad guy. And as I remember, the whole attitude was that I was going to put a smoke bomb into Herbie the Love.
How
into
could you?
Yes,
You're a monster.
I was a monster, and it was kind of a fun thing. counting money, but as a guest star heavy, you're sometimes part of the mainstream, but sometimes you're just supporting, and that's one of the things that you have to learn what your niche is. You gotta have, if you're a supporting actor, it's your job to support. You can't be pretending you're going to be the lead or be jealous of the lead or whatever. You got to do your job.
But what is Herbie like in real life?
Yeah. What was it like to drive Herbie?
The hard-hitting question.
He was in a crusher at the time. They were in a crusher. But Dean Jones
and he was
very,
pressing the
very
button.
attractive. And
Dean
very
Jones is
pleasant.
attractive.
Yes,
so?
he was.
Okay, not just me. All right. So what's your best showbiz story, Lee? Because I know you got a lot of really great stories, and we want to hear.
Over 50 shows, it's really hard.
Maybe the Sting. Maybe we want to hear about the Sting.
Well,
You were in the. Oh my God.
Yeah, the Sting. The reason everybody talks about Sting, Demetra Arliss was in the Sting. She played the guy, the red herring who tries to shoot Redford at the end of the picture.
Oh yeah.
She thinks it's a man, but it's really her. And she said the Sting was the highlight of her career because of the fact that dealt with such wonderful people. Now, we were bodyguards, Charlie Dierkhoff and I, to Robert Shaw. And here's a story that comes to Robert Shaw. Robert Shaw was like Henry VIII living today.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
He was a raconteur. He was a writer, a playwright, a director, an actor. He died early because of his own personal demons. He was never good enough for himself, though he was marvelous. But I do remember us staying at the Broadway East. The Broadway East was my favorite hotel in Chicago because that's where they filmed North by Northwest when Eva Marie Saint and Cary Grant was there in that sequence. Charlie and I were going to be ensconced in some little motel, and of course Robert Shaw was with the big boys at the Broadway East, and he invited us over to read some galleys of a novel he was writing. He wanted to hear the American inflection of the stuff. We stayed there for a week. Unbelievable. Ate, drank. I don't think I ever slept. He was a legendary drinker. There's no. Anyway, here's the capper. We're leaving the hotel after 7 days, and a little guy comes up and hands him a bill. And it was like $20,000 or $25,000 in 1973. It was a huge bill.
It's a huge bill now.
And he looked at the bill, and he took a pen out and wrote Universal Studios, threw it at him, and walked out. Because he was Henry VIII living today. That's one of my good stories.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, man.
That's super rad.
Yeah.
So we have. Well, we were going to show when Devin was in my comedy class. We would make parodies.
Oh boy.
This is a parody this is Devin as a teenager, but there was a MTV show called The Life of Ryan, and it was like a reality show about a famous skateboarder named Ryan Sheckler, yeah. And my friend Dan Winters, who's a very, very famous photographer, looks a lot like Ryan's dad on the reality show. So Dan plays the dad, and they completely improv this scene, and if you pick it up at 4:40. Oh, and when Ryan Sheckler, when we were parodying every aspect of the show, so when Ryan Sheckler would read the voiceover for his own show, he sounded kind of wooden, and so we were even parodying that. So it's not Devin who's wooden. He's doing a good job of his best Ryan Sheckler.
Sure.
I make large buckets of money, but even still, I'm a kid, and I don't want to be put in the middle of my parents' divorce. Turn page. It was time for me
Oh my God, he
to
does.
tell my dad how I really felt. What's up, Dad?
Yeah, okay. What's up? All right, talk to it. What's up, son? How you doing?
You know, skating, full-time job now, and you know.
You gotta buck up, man. You gotta buck up.
What does that mean?
That's what I did.
I just really wanted to come here.
Hang on a second. What's up?
I don't want to be in the middle of the divorce between you and Mom.
I'm not trying to involve you in the divorce at all, son.
You asked me to represent you in court.
Did you ever give me a definitive answer on that, by the way? You see that girl I'm dating now? She's hot.
Okay.
Can you believe I'm doing that?
I mean, you know, Dad, it's just like, I barely see it in my skate comps, and I can just really use the support, you know?
I got stuff going on, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm your son, though, you know? It's like,
I'm not really actually sure that that's the case, but I don't know. I took the responsibility for a while. Obviously, you can see I'm trying to bail right now. But I'll still be collecting those checks and stuff.
No, yeah. Oh.
Definitely. You got $10 I can borrow right now? I'll get it from you. You got it in the car or something?
Yeah.
Or your card, whatever. Wait, did you cancel that card? Oh, hang on a minute.
No, Dad, I mean, it's just like...
I know, I'm totally sore, too.
No, I just... it's like...
I mean, hey, you want some of this shit?
Dad, don't involve me with a divorce. I don't want to be involved with your new piece of ass. Just leave me out of it.
All right, that's cool. No problem. Done. Remember that one time in Empire Strikes Back? When, hang on a second. Hello?
Dad,
No, I'm not doing it.
Why are you quoting Star Wars right now?
Yeah, I'm not busy. I can talk.
No. You're not busy. I'm your son.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
I came out of your balls.
Yeah, hang on a second. Dude, shut the fuck up. Yeah, Big Lebowski probably over Hot Rod. For sure. All right, man. Take care. Good luck.
So what is when people create stuff like that just for fun and put it up because they can? Is that just good for them, good practice, or is that something that gets noticed if it gets enough? Like, how do you guys, on the professional end of things, see that sort of amateur stuff that people are throwing up? Is it worth everyone's time and effort, or should people just do things because they're fun and creative?
Yeah, I think it's an exercise for them, and it's only going to sharpen your tools, right? I mean, until you're making professional things.
Right, because it's not something you would ever put in your reel when it looks that amateurish, right? Like it wouldn't go on a Vimeo.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to put that up. No offense.
No, absolutely, because it's like
that was like
when something's
10
shot
years ago.
professionally, it just has a different.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I was decrepit.
You know, the lighting and the cameras, and like you guys are noticing like the professional quality of anything that would go into a reel, and you could be like, well, I think they made that at home.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because we've been in situations where, you know, an actor gets a role and they've accepted the job and they go and it's produced and it finally gets out in the theaters and people go, ugh! And either they've been cut to ribbons, their scenes were cut out and it looks like they had one line, or the dialogue is just so poorly written that it barely rolls off their tongue and it's obvious that it's just not written well. Sometimes things are not written well. Yeah. And you really have to decide, okay, is that something that I want on my reel? You really have to be not only tough on yourself, but tough on the material, tough on the lighting, tough on the way. I mean, there's so many reasons why I would say no to something as much as so many reasons why I would say yes to something. You know, and it's all relative. You know, it's
are there times
subjective.
where an actor can like show up and get to the set and see that this is just so poorly run and poorly orchestrated that I should just leave?
That's really unprofessional.
Yeah. So if you've booked it, you just stay in the trenches and get it done.
I would never support a client unless they were doing something totally abusive. I mean, we've had situations where female clients were asked to do nude scenes without discussing it with us. It wasn't contractually something that we were aware of, and they're like, "Oh, come on, it's just going to be a little side boob or whatever."
Do they call you?
And the clients
and
call
like,
and go,
"What do
they're asking me to take off my clothes."
Like, what do I
and
do?
I'm like, absolutely not. You know, make them call me. I go in your dressing room and make them call me. You know, it's
But
that's
isn't there like a
unacceptable.
lot of student stuff or just indie stuff where you show? I mean, because Lane and Thomas, you guys work on a lot of indie stuff. Do you ever get involved in something where you're just like, nobody here knows what they're doing?
All the time. I've never had to walk though. I have been on set where we have walked, or people on the set have walked, not myself. Mostly just because of safety things.
Yes.
It's usually safety is where people are
That
like,
I can understand.
No,
Absolutely. Yeah.
But no, I've been pretty fortunate.
Oh,
not
we've
to have
had
anything too
clients
crazy.
who've been asked to do their own stunts and they've gotten hurt. I have 2 clients right now who are in lawsuits with major studios because they didn't have a stunt guy for them.
Wow.
One guy cannot work now.
Jeez.
I filmed this thing once. This guy wanted me to. It was supposed to be like I was jumping off the bridge and like hanging myself, and he was like, "Dude, I've got this like these couple bungee cords." Like, and it was actually we were up like 15, 18 feet. It was like high, and they had like mats down like in the riverbed. And he's like, "Dude, it's fine. Look, I'll try it out." I'm like, "Okay, try it out." And he like ruptured a disc in his back, like he like
Really?
broke his back. And I'm like, we just like filming just stopped like the rest of the day. I was like,
I had a Funny or Die thing where this girl wanted me to fall down, or this director wanted me to fall down some bleachers and then stop at this girl that was sitting on the bottom of the bleachers. And I mean, at the time I was like, I'll do anything if it means I get on camera. So I was like, I'll do it. But the girl who was at the bottom was like, no, I don't trust that she'll be able to stop right at the bleachers. And so we had to stop because she's like, I don't want to get injured. And I was like, I'll hurt myself.
Yeah, I mean, people are so eager to get work that they're better judgment. Like if you were out with a bunch of friends and they said, hey, do a thing, you'd be like, no. But if it's for your professional career.
Yeah.
You had a story, Lee?
Well, I did, but I'm trying to remember the director. But Michael Cortez was directing, again, even older than me. We're talking in the silent days. And who was married to Mary Pickford?
The pirate guy?
Yes, come on. Somebody's got to know
Errol
that.
Flynn?
Huh?
Errol Flynn.
No, way before Errol Flynn. Anyway, Cortez said, I want you to jump off this thing. And he says, well, I'm going to hurt myself. He said, no, I'm not going to hurt myself. I'll do it. So he does it. He broke an ankle.
Fairbanks.
Oh, that's what
He broke an ankle, didn't say anything, and said, I did it. So Fairbanks does it, and guess what? He breaks his ankle.
Oh.
Jesus.
Again, everybody wants to be in the business.
I actually, many years ago, I had a client, a woman who's since passed. She was an elderly lady, an absolutely amazing human being. And she was working on Full House. Ooh. And she tripped backstage. There was an area that wasn't lit properly, and they had a cable that didn't have a board over it.
Oh, that's my fear.
And she fell on her knee and then rolled, and I think she broke her shoulder. But and she didn't want anybody to know. So she picked herself up and hobbled back out onto stage, and they had this huge scene. She played John Stamos' grandmother, and they had this huge dancing scene where she had to put her arms up, and they were doing a Greek dance, and they were throwing plates. Mm-hmm. And she actually finished the day with like a broken shoulder blade or something crazy like that, and like fractured knee. And this woman was probably in her mid-70s when this happened. Wow. And then wound up incapacitated. That was her last job. She wound up and wound up trying to sue the studio for her medical bills. Oh, wow. And the studio blamed it on the production company, and the production company blamed it on the studio. And she wound up dying before they settled.
Wow.
Do you think the myth of that, because I feel like, especially, not to bring it back to the internet, but I feel like there are so many online stories of people who are injured on set. Like Bobby Lee, famously in Mad TV, broke his ribs during a sketch and then still went through with the entire sketch. But he says that led to a lot of his drug addictions. Yeah. But do you think that maybe that just sort of like that myth of like you perform hurt no matter what? There's a famous British actress who was in Mamma Mia who hurt herself during a dance number, and she still did the dance number, and she talked about how she hurt her ankle.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think that, I don't know if maybe that like the internet has been this machine, or if it's just in general there's this attitude of like, no matter what happens,
the show must go on.
The show must go on.
And it's the same in sports, play injured. Like I was listening last night to the news, and it was like all these horses are dying at the racetrack because they're pushing the horses too hard, and the horses get injured and they have to put them down. So it's like everyone needs to just take a deep breath and ask yourself, is it worth it? Like, what really matters? Is it okay to just put up your hand and say like, I'm going to sit this one out because I have the whole rest of my life? It's like I was taking a hike in Alaska with my family, and the guide said to us, humble brag. The guide said to us, make every step a good step. He was like, the rocks here are all slick. Every single rock is slick. There's water that's always coming down. And I thought that's a good motto for life. If it doesn't look like it's going to be a good step, don't take it.
Right. I love that analogy.
I also have an answer to the question not many people were asking. $25,000 today is $141,388.98.
I just write Universal on all my bills.
I thought that was.
I just thought that's insane.
Industry
if you got
standard.
that bill and then you just write Universal.
Well,
I'm just going to try doing that.
The Sting in today's money is one of the 10 top grossers of all time. However, the new films today make that much money in a week
Yeah.
And it took the Sting 30 years.
Jeez. Do you
price of a ticket?
Did you ever? One of my favorite actresses is Eileen Brennan. Did you get a chance to work with her? Or?
I didn't work with her, but I was on the set and we talked a bit. Yes.
What was she like, if you don't mind me asking?
Very earthy and very direct and no nonsense, but fun.
Was she nicer than Herbie?
Was she nicer than Herbie?
Herbie wasn't a crusher. He was in a good day.
I know how much you like him, so I'm not going to comment.
Do not.
He's the love bug, man.
He's the love bug, man.
Consensual love bug.
All right, I want to thank all of you for being here, and it's been a very. Hopefully, everybody learned something and learned something fun. Even if you're not an actor, maybe you know an actor and you love an actor and you can pass this on. I want to thank Thomas Hubble, Lane McFadden, Dina Friedman, Bill Filipiak, John Maddox, Steve Joyner, and thank our guests too, of course, Lee Paul, Eric, James Morris, Devin Sirocco, and Pam Ellis Evenas. And thank you to my co-host Lori Roggenkamp. I am Louise Palenker. Be safe, be well, and be kind. And did I leave anybody out, Lane? No. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be a part of it. I learned a lot myself, and it's great talking with you guys.
We loved it.
Thank you.
We'll keep in touch.
It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. All right.
Too.
Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
See you next week.